You probably wouldn't ignore a fire alarm or a flashing check engine light in your car. Those are obvious warnings, designed to grab your attention. But what about the signals your body sends when something's not right with your heart? Unlike sirens or dashboard lights, these signs are often quiet, subtle, and far too easy to dismiss. That's exactly what makes heart disease so dangerous. It rarely announces itself in an obvious way. Instead, it tiptoes in, whispering through symptoms you might blame on age, stress, or fatigue. But make no mistake, those whispers are trying to tell you something. Heart disease is still the #1 cause of death globally. Yet so many people live with it without even knowing. The reason? The early signs don't always match what we've been taught to expect. We imagine a heart attack as a dramatic moment, a person clutching their chest in agony, falling to the ground, surrounded by panic. And while that kind of scene does happen, it's often preceded by a series of much quieter red flags that appear days, weeks, or even months in advance. Take fatigue, for example. Everyone feels tired now and then, especially after a long day or a restless night. But this kind of fatigue is different. It's persistent, unexplained, and doesn't go away with rest. You might notice you don't have the same energy to do everyday tasks, climbing stairs, grocery shopping, walking short distances. You're constantly drained, even if you haven't done much. This is your body struggling to deliver enough oxygen to your muscles and organs, because your heart isn't pumping efficiently. Another often missed symptom is shortness of breath. At first, it might only show up during exercise or physical exertion. Maybe you used to walk several blocks without trouble, but now you feel winded halfway through. Over time, it starts happening even when you're at rest. You might need to sleep propped up with extra pillows to breathe comfortably at night. These signs can indicate that fluid is building up in the lungs, a common result of a weakening heart muscle. Then there's this strange sensation of swelling, especially in your feet, ankles, or legs. This isn't just a result of being on your feet too long. When your heart can't pump blood effectively, it causes fluid to back up in your body, particularly in the lower extremities. Your shoes might feel tighter, your socks leave deeper imprints, or you simply notice your legs feel heavy and bloated. This swelling is known as edema, and while it might seem harmless at first, it's often an early clue that your heart isn't keeping up with its workload. Heart disease can also disguise itself as something else entirely. Many people experience what feels like indigestion, a burning in the chest, nausea, or discomfort after eating. These symptoms are easy to blame on a heavy meal or acid reflux. But in some cases, they're actually signs that your heart isn't getting enough oxygen. This is especially true if the discomfort happens during physical activity or emotional stress and eases with rest. For women, the signs are often even more elusive. Unlike the classic image of crushing chest pain, many women report more subtle symptoms: upper back or jaw pain, extreme fatigue, lightheadedness, and even flu-like feelings. These symptoms might come and go, or feel like a minor annoyance. But they're not to be ignored, because for many women, these are the only signs they'll get before a serious cardiac event occurs. And then there's the emotional side of it, feelings of anxiety, unease, or what some describe as a sense of impending doom. This might sound dramatic, but it's not uncommon for people to feel that something just isn't right in the days leading up to a heart attack. They can't explain why, but they feel off. Often, they're not taken seriously, even by themselves. But that deep instinct shouldn't be ignored. The body is remarkably intuitive, and when it senses something's wrong, it often tries to speak up just in ways we're not always used to listening to. Irregular heartbeat or palpitations are another often dismissed sign. It might feel like your heart is fluttering, pounding, or skipping beats. These episodes can be brief or last several minutes. Sometimes they occur during rest, other times during movement. Not all irregular rhythms are dangerous, but some, like atrial fibrillation, can increase the risk of stroke or heart failure if left untreated. The danger lies in dismissing these as nothing, especially when they occur alongside other symptoms like dizziness, fainting, or chest discomfort. Even your skin can reveal what's happening inside. Cold sweats, pale or bluish skin, especially around your lips or fingers, can be a sign that your blood isn't circulating well, another red flag that your heart may be in trouble. These signs can be easy to miss or explain away, especially if you're focused on other things. But they're part of your body's quiet language. And that language always has a message if you're willing to listen. What makes all of this even more complex is that most people live with multiple risk factors without even realizing it. High blood pressure, high cholesterol, elevated blood sugar, they're often silent until the damage is already done. Combined with smoking, poor diet, inactivity, or a family history of heart disease, these risks quietly accumulate over time. And when symptoms finally appear, the disease has already had years to take hold. So many lives could be saved, not just extended, but truly saved if we simply paid closer attention to the early warnings. Not panic, not paranoia, but awareness. The kind of awareness that makes you pause and ask, is this normal for me? Rather than rushing past it. The kind that encourages you to talk to a doctor when something doesn't feel right, even if you're not sure what it is. Heart disease doesn't have to be a silent killer. It becomes one when we ignore the signs. But if we learn to listen, really listen to what our bodies are telling us, we can take back control. Every skipped beat, every moment of unexplained fatigue, every small change in how you feel physically or emotionally, it's part of a larger story. And in many cases, you can change the ending of that story. Now that we've explored the subtle signs and symptoms, let's take a deeper look at how you can respond to them, not just emotionally, but practically. Because recognizing the warning signs is only the first step. What you choose to do next can change everything. The first and most important thing is not to wait. Many people, even those who've already experienced early signs, tend to wait until the symptoms become severe or impossible to ignore. They tell themselves it's just stress, or they're simply getting older, or they'll deal with it after the holidays, after the vacation, after the next big deadline. But heart disease doesn't care about your calendar. In fact, it thrives on delay. The longer it goes unaddressed, the more quietly it advances. What starts as mild discomfort can evolve into damage that's harder to reverse. It's easy to assume that something so dangerous would feel unmistakable, but the reality is that your body adapts. You adjust to feeling tired all the time. You normalize being short of breath or needing to sit down more often. Over time, you might even forget what normal used to feel like. That's why tracking changes over time is so powerful. If you notice that things you once did with ease now leave you winded or drained, that's your cue to pause and reflect. Has your sleep changed? Is your appetite different? Are you gaining weight without explanation, especially around the midsection or in the legs? These subtle shifts can be connected, and they often are. For many people, the idea of going to the doctor feels daunting. There's fear of being told something's wrong, of having to face a new diagnosis, or of having to make major life changes. But here's the truth. Not knowing doesn't protect you. It only gives the disease more time to grow. Get a quick exam, some basic tests, a blood pressure reading, cholesterol check. Maybe an EKG or stress test can provide invaluable insight into how your heart is functioning. And the earlier you catch a problem, the more options you have for managing it. Modern medicine offers incredible tools for identifying and treating heart disease, but the most powerful tool is still awareness. Awareness leads to action, and action, especially early action, saves lives. There are people alive today simply because they decided to speak up when something felt off. They didn't wait for it to get worse. They didn't wait until the pain became unbearable. They listened, and they acted. You don't have to be perfect to protect your heart. This isn't about fear, it's about empowerment. Every healthy choice you make sends a message to your body. A brisk walk, a meal rich in fiber, a decision to skip the processed snack for something whole and nourishing. These are small actions that add up over time. The same goes for reducing stress. Chronic stress floods the body with hormones that raise your blood pressure and increase inflammation, both of which wear down the heart. Taking time to rest, laugh, connect with people you care about, and simply breathe can shift your entire cardiovascular profile in a healthier direction. And yes, there's power in the basics. Drinking enough water, getting enough sleep, and avoiding tobacco. These aren't just lifestyle tips, they're heart protection strategies. Your body responds to consistency more than intensity. You don't need a perfect diet or a daily gym routine. You need regular care, gentle movement, and mindfulness about how you treat your body and your time. We also have to talk about emotional awareness. It's one of the most overlooked aspects of heart health. There's a growing body of research showing how depression, loneliness, and even unresolved grief can influence cardiovascular health. People who feel isolated or chronically sad are at higher risk for heart disease. And not just because of unhealthy coping behaviors like overeating or staying sedentary. The emotions themselves create physiological change, inflammation, disrupted sleep, irregular heartbeat. The mind and the heart are deeply connected, and they constantly communicate. If your life feels emotionally heavy, that's not something to ignore. Whether it's stress from work, caregiving, financial strain, or a sense of disconnection from the people around you, your heart feels it. And while therapy or emotional support may not seem like part of a heart care plan, they are. Because healing emotionally can often lead to healing physically. Let's return to those subtle signs again for a moment. The next time you feel winded after mild activity, or you notice swelling in your ankles that doesn't go away, or your energy disappears by mid-afternoon, don't minimize it. Listen to it. Think of it as your body tapping you on the shoulder and asking for a moment of your attention. The earlier you respond, the more control you have over the outcome. Sometimes, people wait for the big sign to tell them it is time to take heart health seriously. They expect crushing chest pain, a collapse, a dramatic medical emergency. But for many, the first heart attack is also the last. That's not to scare you, it's to empower you. Because you don't need a crisis to take control. You only need awareness and a willingness to act on what you feel. And if you're someone who's already been diagnosed with a heart condition, remember this. A diagnosis is not a finish line, it's a turning point. Many people live full, active, joyful lives after being told they have heart disease. The key is engagement. Staying on top of your health, taking your medications as prescribed, showing up to follow-up appointments, making manageable changes one day at a time. These actions add years to your life and quality to your days. Heart disease doesn't care how old you are, how busy you are, or how tough you think you are. It only responds to one thing: attention. And the good news is, you're already doing the hardest part by listening, by staying informed and aware. 8. That awareness is the gateway to better choices, earlier action, and ultimately, better health. 8. So if there's one takeaway from all of this, let it be this: your body is not working against you. Even the uncomfortable symptoms, the fatigue, the tightness, the breathlessness, they aren't punishments, they're messages. Signals, alerts, they are your heart's way of saying, I need help, and there is help. There is hope. With modern knowledge, with open conversation, and with the courage to act early, we are no longer powerless against this disease. In fact, we're more equipped than ever to recognize it, treat it, and live beyond it. As we bring this message to a close, it's important to remember that heart disease isn't a single event. It's a process. It develops over time, and because of that, it can also be slowed, managed, or even prevented over time. What matters most, ISNT, what you didn't notice before it is, what you choose to notice now. Because now, you know more. And with that knowledge comes the opportunity to do something powerful. There's a quiet strength in tuning into your own body. It takes courage to admit that something doesn't feel right, especially when the symptoms seem small or easy to ignore. But listening to those quiet changes, those little signals like sudden fatigue, unusual shortness of breath, or a heart that seems to race for no reason, can be life-saving. When you take action early, you're not overreacting. You're doing exactly what your future self would thank you for. You may be thinking, I feel fine most of the time. Surely it's nothing. But many people feel fine right up until the moment they don't. The aim here isn't to live in fear, but to live with awareness. That awareness leads to smarter decisions, more informed conversations with your doctor, and a more proactive approach to health. And that approach is the key to beating the odds. Let's talk about support. Heart health doesn't have to be a solo journey. Whether you're noticing symptoms or simply trying to make better choices, involving others makes a difference. Talk to your spouse, your family, your friends, share your concerns, your questions, your goals. Sometimes the accountability of someone else walking beside you, literally or figuratively, can be the motivation you need to stay on track. Even small support systems create major ripples. And if someone close to you is showing signs of possible heart trouble, don't hesitate to speak up. That gentle nudge, the one that encourages them to see a doctor or get a screening, could be the turning point they didn't know they needed. Many people ignore their own health, but will act quickly when someone they trust expresses concern. Your voice could be what cuts through their doubt. It's also worth revisiting what good heart care actually looks like. Yes, it includes healthy food, regular movement, enough rest, and stress management. But it also includes consistency. The heart thrives on rhythm, not just physically, but in routine. Eating well for a few days, walking for a week, or taking medication sporadically won't do nearly as much as steady, repeated effort over time. Your heart wants to know it can depend on you. And when it can, it gives you so much in return: energy, vitality, clarity, and years of life you might not have had otherwise. Prevention, of course, isn't just about avoiding a heart attack. It's about protecting your quality of life. A strong heart means better circulation, stronger immunity, sharper brain function, improved mood, and even healthier skin. Everything connects back to the heart. It doesn't just keep you alive, it helps you live well. One of the most empowering things you can do starting today is get to know your numbers. Blood pressure, cholesterol, resting heart rate, blood sugar levels, these are more than statistics. They're clues, stories your body is trying to tell you. You don't need to become a medical expert, but understanding the basics puts you in the driver's seat. It means you'll recognize when something changes. You'll be able to ask better questions. And you'll know what actions to take long before crisis strikes. There's one mindset shift that changes everything. It's this: don't wait for perfect motivation. Action breeds clarity. You don't need to feel inspired to take that walk, to skip that fast food, or to schedule that appointment. You just need to take the first small step. The motivation often comes after the pride, the sense of progress, the lift in energy, and one step leads to another. Because heart disease may be silent, but your actions don't have to be. Every decision you make for your heart speaks volumes. It says you value your life, says you respect the people who love you. It says you're not willing to settle for surviving, you want to thrive. It's easy to think of heart disease as something that happens to other people. Someone older, someone more unhealthy, someone else. But the truth is, it can happen to anyone. Genetics, lifestyle, and even long-term stress can intersect in complex ways. You might do many things right and still be at risk. That's why awareness is so important. Not fear, just awareness. And once you know, once you've tuned in, there's no going back to pretending you didn't hear those signs. That tightness in your chest, that swelling in your feet, that feeling of being out of breath more often, it's not nothing. It's not just aging. It's not in your head. It's your heart speaking, and you owe it to yourself to listen. You don't need to overhaul your life in a day. You don't need a perfect record or a rigid routine. What you need is presence, commitment, a willingness to learn, to adjust, and to stay connected to your own body. Because that connection will guide you. It will tell you when to slow down, when to seek help, and when to push forward. So if you've heard anything in this message that resonates with ISL, if you've experienced something you've noticed in someone else, let that be your sign. Let this be the moment you choose not to ignore it. Maybe it's booking a checkup. Maybe it's making a single change to your meals. Or maybe it's just talking about it out loud for the first time. No step is too small if it moves you in the right direction. The heart is an incredible organ. It works hard every second of every day, asking for very little in return. But when it needs help, it's up to you to recognize that call. And when you do, when you honor those signals, those whispers, you give yourself the best possible chance at a longer, stronger, more vibrant life. Don't ignore what your heart is trying to tell you, because sometimes the quietest signs are the ones that matter most.